Let's talk about the Heretic knives Medusa. If you do a search on YouTube, you can't find a lot about this knife. I mean, there's one or two reviews on the G10 scaled versions or the aluminum scaled version, but there's nothing on the upper tier titanium scaled version of this knife. And I've had a few weeks to play around with it, and I thought I'd share my thoughts on what I think about it. So if we start with packaging, this is what it comes in. It comes in this cardboard box, Ziploc pouch, and that's it. And so for a nearly $1,000 knife, right? Like this one's $980, this one's $910. Frankly, underwhelmed. To give you some perspective on what other comparably priced knives come with, like this Rockstead Chi, right? Let's see here. Comes in this wooden box with a handwritten COA, like a cleaning cloth, and then a nicely padded insert for the box. All right, so that's for the Rockstead. And then Medford on the other hand comes in this box, and then you get this Pelican style case, which is really quite nice. And I think my Nosferatu came in this, and it's bubble wrapped. You get some care instructions, some patches, and then another COA in there as well. So when you consider these other manufacturers and what you get at around the same price point, this feels really underwhelming for $1,000. But not everyone cares about packaging. It's something I notice. So in terms of specs, I find them really boring. I'm just going to list it in the video descriptions, and you can see for yourself. Let's look at some size comparisons with this knife. So how about some everyday carry options? Benchmade bug out, right? Let's see here, what else about the Demco 20.5. About Civivi's Praxis. And then let's do one more. About the Cold Steel 8015. Just to give you a sense of scale and how large these automatics are. And how about for some side opening automatics? There's a Boker Strike Plus. All right. And Microtech, Ultratech. Let's do another. How about the Microtech Stitch? All right. And then let's see. This one might be more obscure. This is the Hogue X5. And then one more side opening automatic. About the Medford Nosferatu. Give you a sense of scale with these other comparable knives. Okay, so if we talk about some of the features, maybe some of the materials, let's talk about the blade. This is an ELMAX which I have no problems with. It's got this really cool, what they call battle worn finish. I like it quite a bit. I like it better than bead blast because this is going to show wear or hide wear a lot better. Really love this subtle Japanese Tanto design. Kind of tired of the regular American Tantos, and this just, I don't know, has this really great sort of aesthetic to it. Blade stock is quite thick, but slicing geometry is still surprisingly decent, I think, because of how high these flats are and just how tall this blade is. You know, the sharpening choil, which is very large, it's nice, but I kind of wish it was either maybe a little bit bigger so it can act as a finger choil as well. I mean, you can choke up a little bit, but that would have been nice if that was enlarged. I'm really surprised by the blade length, right? Because this is actually around a 3-inch blade. And I usually don't go for knives that have shorter than 3.5 to 4 inches, but I think this blade feels deceptively large because of how due to its height, right? So quite like it. I think it's really stunning. It's beautiful. The handle, let's talk about the handle for a second. It's got some ridiculously thick scales. I was really surprised by that. I did not expect them to be this thick. If we compare it to, let's look at the stitch. Stitch is, an overbuilt automatic. Stitch is kind of hard because of all the contouring. Let me try a different knife here. So while we look at the, this is pretty blocky, the Nosferatu. So if we look at these knives, it's very comparable in terms of the scale thickness. Blade stock, I think it might be very comparable as well. It's hard to tell, but this is one chunky knife. It's pushing sort of Medford proportions here. I happen to really like the flaming that they did on this titanium. I usually never like flame titanium because it just looks contrived and forced, but this looks beautiful. It's very organic, and I really like the way the colors pop in the light. Here's a closer look up at the ray skin inlay. Yeah, this I actually really like this ray skin inlay as well. I have another knife that has ray skin, and it doesn't grip nearly as well. I think because of the texture on this shin. You notice how I really like the shin inlay better, the way it looks, but this feels better in terms of grip, much grippier. I think it's got better surface area, more traction. So like the looks of this, but this has got better grip. The other thing I noticed too is that these buttons are so beautiful. The inlays they use. This looks like some sort of fat carbon with a bit of blue in there. And then this inlay, some sort of wood inlay, ironwood, or I'm not really sure, but I really like that sort of attention to detail on the just the fancy materials they chose to use. Let's see. The other thing I'm not crazy about is I don't like how proud these release buttons sit. You can see it. It's hard to tell, but it sits above, and so it's something that I think if you're pocket carrying, it's easier to hit. Usually when I have, like if you look at some of my other side opening automatics that have a proud button, they'll have a safety, right, to prevent accidental pressing, right? Or they'll be flush. Like this one's, the Hogue has a proud release as well, but it's also got safety. Same thing with the Nosferatu, right? It's got a button release that sits proud of the scale, but it's got a safety. The exception is the Stitch does not have a safety, but this button is, the plunge is much deeper. And also the button is much harder to press, so I don't think that's as much of an issue. But this button is really easy, and it sits proud of the scales, and so not crazy about that. The hardware on these knives is stunning. Like, I love these blued anodized accents. It's really, really beautiful. Yeah, these jeweled or polished hardware. It's so beautiful, especially on this flame titanium knife. Love the massive stop pins that they have for deployment and retraction, which is also blued on the Rayskin inlaid knife. So fit and finish for these guys, really good. Love the attention to detail. It's some of the, again, I said, the best flaming I've seen on titanium scales. Lockup, completely solid, no movement, side to side, up or down. What was really kind of a bummer and disappointing was this knife had really bad decentering or centering issues. Like, it was way left, and I had to play around with the body screws and the pivot to get to center, and that was really disappointing for a $900+ knife. The other thing that's kind of, what I'm not crazy about this one is it has this, you can hear the coil spring as you retract it. Not sure if you can hear that. Try one more time. It doesn't feel gritty, but you can just hear the spring winding up. This one you can't. It's quiet. So I noticed that. And the other thing too is both of these have really pronounced lock stick on the button as you push them. Now, I am going slow, so I'm exaggerating how that sounds, right? So I'm exaggerating the sound, but I don't get that. Like, even with my $40 Boker, this one, no lock stick, right? No lock stick. Or even some of my other cheaper, like my Kershaw, my Launch 8, there's no lock stick. Let alone the Medford, right? The Medford has absolutely zero lock stick as well. And you don't hear any grinding, or it doesn't feel gritty upon deployment, right? It's quiet and it's super smooth. So I'm hoping that's something that wears in, but it's pretty pronounced. It's just, you can feel it. It's really gritty. I don't like the way that feels. Again, nobody's opening their knife, pressing slow, but it's just something to notice, right? The other thing I really like is spring tension. Spring tension is fantastic. It is the perfect amount of pop. It's not exaggerated, and it's not overly powerful like the Stitch. Like, this is just, it just feels excessive, right? Or the Protex. Medford's Nosferatu is way too weak in my opinion, but this one is perfect. I love the spring tension. Pops out with authority, just absolutely perfect. Ergonomics are really, really fantastic. The jimping looks super aggressive, and while it doesn't bother me. feels pretty good, you know, and bare titanium like this guy can get really slippery. So having all that jimping helps. Feels fantastic. The saber grip. The one thing I did notice, if you were to squeeze really hard, really bear down on this clip has these sharp edges, which is not great. This is gonna really cut into your hand if you bear down on it hard and squeeze really hard. But other than that, these handles feel absolutely amazing. This titanium is a lot grippier thanks to the rayskin inlays. You know, speaking about this clip, you know, it's okay. It's not deep carry for sure. It's gonna right up to about here on your pants. Spring tension is fantastic though. It's not too firm, not too soft, and that ball bearing helps, you know, helps the knife pass through material really easily. So recommendations and final thoughts. I like it. I think this knife looks badass and it feels like badass. And I really appreciate this heavy, overbuilt sort of design aesthetic. I wasn't expecting that. I was not expecting it to be as chunky as my Medford. You know, it's really attention getting. It's got some great aesthetics, and I love the fact that they use some exotic materials for things, and it sets it apart. It looks different. And I love the fact that it looks and feels like an expensive knife, right? The other thing too is, you know, overbuilt knives tend to be really big and bulky, but that's definitely not the case here. It fits perfect. You know, I wear small size gloves and it fits my hand perfectly. You know, it's a great four-finger grip. I couldn't imagine why a medium-sized hand would have problems with this. But if you had large hands, these handles might feel short. What I don't like, what do I not like about these knives? You know, what I don't like is the lock stick and some of the fit and finish issues, like the decentering that was really bad on this flamed version. When I called my vendor or the online store and asked them about other copies, and he said that they had 4 copies of this and all of them had decentering issues and all of them had this sort of lock stick that I was kind of talking about. So I really don't like the fact that, you know, these things are $900+ dollars. Like this is $910, this was $980, almost $1,000 knives. To have those kind of issues out of the box is really disappointing. This one was centered perfect, and he said they had one other and it was centered perfectly as well. So not crazy about the potential lack of quality control from the factory, right? The button that sticks out proud, like when it's deployed, the blade is deployed, the button is recessed. But yeah, I don't like how, I don't know, I don't really like how easily this button is depressed and it sits proud, which I think this might be relegated to satchel carry instead of pocket carry due to I don't know, just the girth of it. I don't know if I like to have something this thick in my pocket. And it's not deep carry either. It's more of a mid carry, and then also that button that sits proud of the scales. That's about it. I mean, I really like this knife. I think I can fully recommend it as long as you set your expectations in regards to quality control and potential fit and finish issues. That is disappointing, but I still think it's, despite the lock stick, which I'm hoping it breaks in and disappears over time, I can recommend it. Really, really like it. Love the look, love the feel, and yeah, been enjoying it. Glad I bought it. So hope this video was helpful. Thanks for tuning in. So long and have a nice day.